Welcome back, everyone, to the FloTrack Podcast. FloTrack Podcast at gmail.com. I am Kevin. He is Gordon. Subscribe to the FloTrack Podcast YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Also, subscribe to the FloTrack YouTube account. Follow the FloTrack Podcast on Instagram. Gordon, we got to give a shout out at the beginning of the show to Rick Corp on Instagram. Tagged us after watching last week's clip. You and I were incredulous about how all these running photos come to be. And right on time, Vanessa Frazier, Bowerman Track Club, posted a behind the scenes of a running photo shoot. And he was nice enough to tag us and say, hey, here's a little bit of insight. And we got to see kind of how this goes down. Although I will say, you and I don't think we're talking about this level of a photo shoot. We were talking more about a random picture in the middle of the street or out on the trail there. But a little bit of insight just into how the process of a photo shoot comes to pass here. So shout out to Rick for tagging us.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Tag us more if you're listening to this podcast or watching us or whatever. And yeah, that little back and forth looks like a more professional photo booth, but like there's like people, there are so many photographers just at every running event, like
Yeah.
just at the Houston Marathon. There's like everyone who's running has like a friend who has a camera and is good at taking photos, and then all of a sudden they have like a collection of documents of their entire like marathon or half marathon, which I recognize, which I saw in full scale here at the Houston half yesterday. So.
Yeah, and that's something that's changed in the time that we've been covering track, don't you think? Like I remember going to the Texas meet last year during the pandemic and just being blown away. Everyone had their own Instagram photographer with them, and that didn't used to be the case. It was like there'd be one or two people there taking photos and they'd tag people and share it, but everybody has their personal content creator. Are you still on the ground in Houston, by the way?
I am in hotel. We decided to spend the night because we wanted to go out Sunday night after the run and didn't want to drive 2.5 hours back to Austin on a Sunday night. So we spent the night. We will leave this morning. Gonna get some tacos suggested by Carl Lewis that you and I had when we were in town covering the track team. So go to the taco truck after this podcast and head back to Austin, Texas. So
Gordon,
yeah, meet was fun.
Going
I mean, not the meet.
On your reporting trip here. Are you doing more reporting? Oh, good.
No, there's nothing else really to report except for, we'll go right into it. Yesterday, I think, was probably the craziest women's distance day of all time. The fact that we see two American records in the same race in two different distances by two incredible women. You see, Kira D'Amato. I got to be there right in the finish line corral. Her kids were there. Her entire family was there. And building up to this race, Kira was thinking American record, but then kind of took their foot off the gas pedal of kind of saying American record or bust. She kind of was like, we'll see what happens. And what happened was she demolished it. She went out incredibly hard. She was like on 2:18 pace through the first half marathon or so and was able just to hold on and just do something that I don't think anyone can really fathom, right? The fact that someone who was a collegiate runner, then gave up running, went on to live a regular life, then decided to get back into hobby jogging. And it's like, oh, maybe I could break 3 hours in a marathon. And then 5 years after saying the phrase, ooh, maybe I can break 3 hours in a marathon, you're breaking the American record. Like, that just doesn't happen. And so I was so surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised that she ran well because she's proven that she's now like an elite runner and she's going to be able to compete with the best of the best. But for it actually to happen in real life, that she actually ran a time that was under 2:20, a time that was under Gina Casser's 2:19:36. Sometimes you got to see it to believe it. And I just saw it and I was flabbergasted.
I'm with you. Based on what she's done 2020 on, wasn't that surprising, and just how the marathon has accelerated. But you take one step back and you think, wait, we weren't even talking about her in 2019. And in 2020, we were talking about her as, hey, maybe she could work her way into the mix. She could be there in the last lap of the 10K or maybe the final few miles of the Olympic trials marathon. And then she went a step beyond that. And Caster's career and D'Amato's career, couldn't be more different just in terms of Caster took a much more traditional path. She was knocking out all those majors, and you could just see, all right, the American record's going to be hers versus D'Amato. Again, we could see it coming, but it only came into view in the past year, and she took advantage of this opportunity. Seemed to be pretty good conditions out there, Gordon. I mean, you were on the ground. But we're, and I know she had good pacing throughout. Did everything align perfectly for this attempt? Do you think?
Yeah, so the weather was a bit cold in the beginning, but obviously once you start running and heating up, it's great conditions. One
Yeah.
thing that Kira had is she had perfect pacing. So she had
Mhm.
like basically a mob of people around her to really block the wind for a majority of the race. And then when it got late in the race, she had one pacer, male pacer, who there was like a point where he decided to let her go because she wanted to pick it up in the final 2 or 3 miles. But then he recognized that there was like a gust of wind coming. And so he
Mhm.
sprinted back in front of her, blocked the wind for a few more blocks, and then went off again to let her go again. So
Wow.
uh, he was being really scientific of like trying to make it as easy as possible, be with her throughout the entire ride, and it resulted in a 2:19. And this is the same pacer who was pacing Sarah Hall's American record attempt at the Marathon Project.
Okay.
And that when he was doing that, that's where Kira recognized, oh, who is this guy?
Mhm.
And they put two and two, and then eventually they were able to meet up. And now 3 years later, he is now pacing her to an American record after, you know, being the sidekick to Sarah Hall at the Marathon Project 3 years ago.
Mhm. What do you think is the next step for D'Amato now, and for the record itself? I'm of the opinion, and I mentioned this I think on Friday's pod. I think we're going to see a lot more sub 220s. I just think it's time. And on the women's half marathon side, I think we're going to see a lot of people run these performances. But what do you think's the next progression for D'Amato and for the record for the United States?
Well, she said in the press conference she still has 2024 on her mind, which is
Hmm.
kind of wild because I guess 2024 is in 2 years, but I think she'll be getting even closer to 40 by the time we get there. So, but hell, you just broke the American record. You have to think you are top three shape if you can run 2:19. And
Yeah.
you think 2 more years, she may be on the elder side age wise, but her legs don't have 20 years of running in them. They probably only have 10 years of running
Yeah.
on them. So she kind of has this like, red shirt years that she probably is a lot stronger than typical 38-year-olds.
Hmm.
Um, One thing that I was thinking about, she just broke the American record. Would you, if you were the USATF head person, orbiter of rules, you're the king of USATF.
Hmm.
Would you kick off someone from the World Championship marathon team for Kira D'Amato? And if you were do it, who would you kick off? Because you have Molly Seidel, you have Emma Bates, and Sarah
No.
Hall.
No. No.
You have an
No. I mean,
Olympic medalist, a half marathon American record holder, and a top finisher in Chicago, and Emma Bates. Would you take someone off? I feel like you
no.
have to, but you shouldn't. But you have to, and also you shouldn't. I feel like it's very, I don't know,
Well, here's
because
the
how can you
situation.
say the American record holder is not on the top three to represent USA? There's something weird about that.
Well, yeah, but we've had this before where people don't make Olympic teams who have faster times.
Yes,
And
Kenny Harrison factor. I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
Bates and Hall just beat her in Chicago. And then you're not going to bump off Molly Seidel. I don't think anybody would think you're going to do that. But they just ran head to head. They've changed they put in place the rules for that so late that maybe it would make sense. It's just, hey, it's a fluid situation. It's a living document. The qualification standards for world championships are just going to change every couple months. That might be a fun twist. But I don't listen. She's going to have a shot to make the next team and the team after that. I think this answers the question of what's her event, because for a while, oh, it's 5K because she ran that 15:0 time trial in the beginning of the pandemic, and then she ran a 10K and then a half and then a marathon. And I mean, she ran the trials marathon, and that was the first. If you go back to it, the first little hint, like, okay, she's elite now again. So at least it answers the question of what race is her best. Or do you think there's still some mystery around that?
No, you when you break the American record in the marathon is your best event.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I guess, is because she can't qualify for the world championships in the marathon, do you think she's going to go this summer and try to make the 10K team for Eugene?
No, I think she might just be like, all right, let's try to win Chicago Marathon or win New
Yeah,
York City or win one of the fall marathons. And then I think her next goal is basically try to win a major, right?
yeah,
Because now she goes onto the starting line and she looks at her time on the list and it says 2:19. You're like, all right, I'm in the conversation to win. Like I ran 2:19, 2:19
yeah.
low. So like I'm not just here for the token American on the field, right? I'm a legit competitor. And I think she probably, if I had to guess, I mean, I don't know, I think her goals are going to be try to win a major in the next
Mm,
1 to 3 years. And in that process, make the 2024 Olympic team. Like, I
yeah,
think it's pretty much, I don't think track really, I mean, she may think like, oh, maybe the 10K, but I don't know. I think just get really good at the marathon, build up,
yeah.
start getting higher and higher finishes at majors, and really set yourself up. So when you're running that marathon trials in 2024, you're
Mhm,
just like a no brainer lock. So
mhm.
that's what I think she should do.
And looking at the half with Sarah Hall there, again, she's around the same age as D'Amato. Now, they took very different routes to the American records, but they both were unorthodox in their own way. D'Amato not running for several years, Hall switching events, all the fits and starts. She talked about how she contemplated retirement, then goes to the roads. Even in the way she runs road races is a bit different. She races so frequently, puts herself out there a lot, but she breaks Molly Huddle's mark, runs 67:15. You got a chance to go to the press conference afterwards. What were her thoughts on actually getting this record?
Yeah, I mean, she was just as kind of like in awe and kind of tears of joy type moment as Kira was. And I think also the fact that there's such cool little symmetry to her breaking a half marathon record on the same course 15 years later after her husband broke the American record in the half. And so now,
Mm,
like the fact that the US half marathon duo of the Halls
yeah,
is just kind of all both being done in Houston, 15 years apart, very different career trajectories. She was sat on the back of the lead cart when Hall broke the American record 15 years ago. And little did she know that 15 years from that moment, she would be able to be on the other side of the coin and be able to run an American record. And she just looked smooth the entire time. She was confident. It was a unique situation where the eventual winner did pull away, so she kind of was running her own race. She was kind of
mhm,
winning her own. She was in that leading the second pack, so there wasn't really the thought of winning the race early on because the eventual winner won by 2 minutes. Um, and Sarah brought pulled along with her like incredible performances. Like Fiona O'Keefe ran out of her mind. She finished right behind. Dom Scott ran out of her mind. She finished close behind. So like there were other women that she kind of pulled along to have like not just a great day for Sarah, but a great day for Dom Scott, Fiona O'Keefe. And again, when you just look at both the full marathon and the half marathon, it was just incredible performances all around.
yeah, and that's why that depth is why I think we're going to see this more and more. Now, a lot of it comes down to just the amount of opportunities you have, and are the fields going to come together? Is the weather going to be great? But when you have O'Keefe and just on the American side, I'm not even talking about everybody else because Chepenko ran 65 low. I mean, that's one
Yeah,
of the fastest. Like that's one of the fastest half marathons that we've ever seen.
it's 11th all
And
time.
yeah, and then you have O'Keefe and Durgan now moving well into the top 10 for the US. I think we're going to see this. Like if you told me is the women's American record in the half going to be in the 66s by this time next year, like after the Houston half next year, I would say yes. I think this is the starting point.
Yeah, I mean, within the next 4 years, do you think both of these records will be broken?
Within the next how many years?
4 years.
Oh yeah,
Do you think we'll
yeah.
have a
I think
new U.S. Women's
yes,
American record holder in the marathon and half?
yes. I think the half will be gone by next year for sure, and then I think the marathon even it will be less than 2 years before that marathon record is broken.
Less than 2 years.
Okay, yeah, I think so. I think the talent is there because it's not just about D'Amato, right? There's all that we've talked on and on and on about how deep U.S. women's marathoning is right now. Now, a lot of it's going to come down to opportunity. How many fast races are available that year? All it takes is you know, Houston having bad weather, or Berlin or London having bad weather, Chicago, the pace. There's no Pacers in. Well, no, there are Pacers in Chicago now. The Pacer screws up or something, and then the three chances dwindle, and then there's few opportunities. But if they keep doing things like the Marathon Project, or they have great race situations, then I think we're going to see it more and more. Because listen, if the if the front of the field is pacing for 216 or 215 or 214, like Bridget Kosgei, and they're able to run those marks, I think you're going to have a trickle down effect where the women behind that group are going to get pulled along to fast times, and just the depth is there for them.
All right,
And you
gotta ask
also
the
can't discount
question.
you can't discount the shoe factor too, obviously. Go ahead.
I mean, Ryan Hall's record has still stood here for 15 years.
Yeah,
Rupp came within 4 seconds of it in 2018. The marathon record, 2:05:38,
yeah.
set in 2002. That's even longer. That's 20 years. Rupp came within about 40 seconds of it in 2018. When are when are the men going to start having the same type of, you
Yeah.
know, dominant era of one after another, flirting with an American record, breaking American record, another new top 10.
Yeah.
Um, when is it going to be the boys' time to shine here? Are we going to see it in this time? Like, or do we still have to wait another 5 or another cycle, another 10 years before we have a new fresh crop of dudes who can come in and start running? I'm going to run 205 this year, or I'm going to break
Yeah.
60 this year.
Yeah. That's a harder question to answer. If you want me to give you an exact date, I can't, because it's not. You're right. There's not that depth. There's not that pool of people where you're like, all right, one of these 10 are going to pan out. But the women, you have that advantage. And more seem to pop up every time you have a major marathon. There's another person who puts their name out there and you have to consider. So I don't know. But you look at the men, it's just a different type of, like, Sarah Hall, Kira D'Amato, they're really relevant on the track too. Like, they could go to the 10,000-meter trials and be in the mix for teams. Obviously, Emily Sisson won the 10,000 at the Olympic trials, the best half marathoner, or sorry, one of the best half marathoners, one of the best marathoners in the United States. The men, there's just no, the crossover isn't the same. And you could point to a bunch of different reasons why that's true. But we're going to have to wait, I think, a little longer for the men. Now, like, who do you think's the best candidate to break it for the half for the men? Is it still Rupp?
I mean, we can like be bold and be like, is it Connor Mance, right?
Yeah, and it might be. Or is it Chalimo or something? Is it somebody who hasn't really explored the roads at all, but we know has good top end speed? Or is it a guy at the tail end of his career who's more focused on the longer stuff? With the
Yeah,
women, it's just easier
like
to see the path forward.
yeah. I don't know, but we did have a good male performance in Kirabella Rasa. He ran
Mhm.
60:44. We're number 6 all time on the U.S. list. I talked to him post race. He wanted to break the American record. That was his
Maybe it's him
goal.
then.
He said
Maybe it's him.
he said he got COVID 2 weeks ago, and that kind of threw him off. But like in his mind, he thought, I'm going to break the American record at Houston, and it
Hmm.
was his debut. He was like all in on. He has
Yeah.
utmost confidence. This Kilbel Rasa guy. For those who don't know, Kilbel, he ran at Oklahoma State. Was good NCAA athlete. he's been kind of bouncing around different groups here and there, kind of struggling to get uh, sponsorships. He had like a Nike deal at one point, then he had a Hoka deal. But a thing with men's distance running, it's really hard to hold on to a deal if you're not making top 3 at the
Mhm.
world team level. And he just was really good at being good at the wrong moments, right? He
Mhm.
was top of the top tier runner, but then when it came to the race day of the trials or race day of the US champs, he gets 4th or 5th or
Yeah.
DNFs. And he now trains in Ethiopia, and he's confident. He thinks he's going to make the 5K team. He thinks he can make the 10K team. And he thinks that this 60-44 is kind of proof that he's fit and he's able to, he'll be able to toe the line with the Bowerman guys and everyone and their mom who's going to be trying to make a world team in Eugene this year. Especially the
Yeah.
fact that 10K and 5K are a month apart, so there will be no like tired legs for the 5 or tired legs for the 10.
And maybe it is someone like that who ends up breaking it, as opposed to someone who's more
Known. Yeah.
apparent. Yeah, following a logical transition. So Tolosa won the half. He goes 60-24. You mentioned Arasa there in fourth. Pat Tiernan, who you highlighted before, sixth with 60-55, and Biasimbasa seventh. What about on the marathon side of things? You had James Ngandu win it in 2:11. Top American was Frank Lara. You highlighted him as well, 2:11:32.
Yeah, obviously, the headlines are kind of stolen by the women's field.
Yes.
On the marathon side for men, I mean, 2:11. It's more. It just isn't the same type of you know top end talent that we had on the women's side. But you know, still a win's a win. And Frank Lara, who notably said, "I'm going to break the American record in the half." Now he got his debut in the full run to 11, and we'll see if he can improve and get down to sub 210 and potentially over the next 4 years become a contender. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's talk
So
about track now. You want to talk about?
yeah, I just want to say all the interviews that Gordon did are on the site if you want to check them out. But let's talk about indoor track. You highlighted the Coleman performance. First race, coming back after the suspension that kept him out of the Olympics. He ran a 300 and then a 4x4. His 300, 33:20, finished second in his heat to Kennedy Leitner. 33:20 is a PB. And then he got some work in the 4x4, running a leg there. I don't think we have the split on that 4x4. What does it all mean, Gordon? What does it all mean?
Well, it's fun looking at this photo. Put this photo up, Colt, of Coleman running a 4x4 split, running 300s. It's just like a unique situation. Typically, you don't see short, stouty, short sprinters doing 4x4s, but he was in the mix, getting his legs ready to go up in the 60 at Milrose. I mean, this is good, right? He's run.
Mhm.
You don't get off the couch and run 33 seconds in a 300. So I think it shows that he's been training, and it shows he's been staying fit. And when the time comes, he's going to be a factor. I know I
Mhm.
made the bold prediction Christian Coleman's going to be a factor. I know it's a stupid bold prediction because to say it's bold to say the defending world champion is a factor. But
Mhm.
for me, it is. I think there is a chance that he could have lost
Mhm.
his grip on the top of the arena of 60 sprinting and 100-meter sprinting. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But once you're
Well,
out for 2 years, anything can happen. You could just eat too many Doritos, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh shit, where am I? I can't break 10 seconds anymore." Like that could
I
happen.
think I think the shorter the distance, the smaller the margin of error, generally speaking, and the sharper you need to be. And he's going to hop into the shortest event in professional track and field in the 60 in a couple weeks in Milrose. And I think that's a sign of confidence that he knows he's ready to go, because otherwise he would not jump in against that field if he's going to go and get fourth or fifth. I just don't think that's where his mind is at. And I think this is just entering a meet, running a couple races, off distance, instead of doing it as a workout. you put the uniform on and you go and compete and you get some of that going back to race anxiety out of you before it's time for the big show. But I just think the fact that he's entered, I'm not saying he's going to open with a world record, but I think the fact that he's entered in the 60, I think he knows he's ready and he just starts so well in those 60s and in those hundreds that he's going to be the guy to beat until I see otherwise. I mean, how many times have you seen a bad Christian Coleman start? It's really hard to find one if you go and you look through. Now, he's been beaten in races before, but it's hard to find one where he's had a bad start. And in the 60, that carries so much weight. So I think this result just goes to show you he's fit, he's ready, and I think we're going to see big things for him. I mean, I have him ranked as the number one sprinter in the 60 because listen, you have all the top marks and you've been clutch throughout your whole career when it comes to indoor competitions. You're going to have that until somebody else can beat you. I don't think it matters that he's been out.
What'd you think of Athing Mu? Oh, see the yeah, Christian Coleman, top ranked, Romel
Mhm.
2, Baker 3. Let's move on over to another new topic. What do you think of Athing Mu's mile debut? Has she run
All
a
right.
mile before? I,
Yeah, she's run a mile before. Um, well, I'll just plagiarize what I said on This Week in Track edition. No one's run so fast while looking so bored as a thing Mo in this race. Because from the first stride, Gordon, she was ahead. And then she was lapping people. And this was not a fair fight at all. She kicked pretty well to close, but for a while she was on about 440 pace, crept just off of that, was looking at like 445 pace, but she closed so well. It's just over distance work for her at this point. What's crazy to think about is how good she is in the quarter and she's running the mile. If you think of her not as an 800-meter runner, which I know is weird to do because obviously she won the gold medal in the 800, but she's also one of the best in the world in the quarter. And then she hops in a mile. It's just fun to think about. Like imagine Michael Norman, Michael Cherry, Stephen Gardner, Allison Felix, Shawnee Miller-Weibo running a mile. That's the fun
yeah,
part of it for me is just looking at the range. But I mean, the second place was 5:13.
yeah. Or even not even a mile. Seeing Michael Norman run an 800 would be fun, right? Because Norman's more of like a 2-4 guy as opposed to a 4
Yeah,
8 guy. But like,
yeah.
yeah, it's also interesting. Like, I don't know. Why didn't she run the other heat? Why didn't she run up against Alexa Ephraimson? Like, she's in
Ephraimson,
the
yeah,
slower of this.
I was wondering that as well too. I mean, all the women in this race have a cool story about the time they were on the track at the same time as a thing Mo. But yeah,
Yeah, it just,
Ephraimson 446. I mean, that wouldn't have been close either. I mean, assuming I don't know. I don't know what the yeah. Ephraimson had no competition either. Ephraimson won by 16 seconds. So this is like a semi, and then we never got to see the final, where you have two people completely overwhelming their competition, and then they never race each other.
yeah. It is interesting whenever we see these elite athletes, like world class, obviously, um, literally number one in the world, go up against athletes who are just like, it's like LeBron James playing with middle schoolers. You wouldn't see that, right?
Mhm.
That's what we're seeing. We're seeing a LeBron James talent competing against JV ninth graders. Uh, but you
No
know,
disrespect.
hey,
No disrespect to
I'm
G.
excited for what she does. Does the fact that she's running a mile means she's definitely still staying super focused on this 8, which she should because she's the Olympic champion in the 8. But I'm hoping she doesn't shy away too much from these 4s, right? Because
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
400-meter ability has the chance to just skyrocket. And if,
Yeah.
you know, I just don't want her to lose that 400-meter speed. I don't think 1 mile is going to lose your 400-meter speed, but I'm just being selfish and I want her to run a 400 and an
She
800 at the same meet. That's all I want. That's all I
she
want for Christmas.
she's done this her whole she's done this her whole career though, going back to AAU where she'd go 200 through to the 1500. So I think she's comfortable with just being versatile. She's okay with doing everything. But I'm with you. I want to see a lot of 400s this year from her because I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I don't know if this means anything in terms of her event plans. I think similarly to Coleman, just get a race in. This is a workout basically. Run even splits for 1200 meters and then kick hard and do a fast last quarter. And then you're sharpening up for your actual indoor
Here's a
campaign. I wonder if
question.
she's going to do world indoors. That's what I wonder.
Will we see from her indoor season more races over 700 meters or under 700 meters?
Indoor season?
Yeah. She already has one over the 700
I'll
mark.
say I'll
So
say over.
basically, 1Ks, 800s, and miles versus 600s, 400s, and 300s.
I'll say over, but one of my predictions going into the year, I don't know if I made it on the pod, was that she'd break the American record in the quarter. That doesn't mean she's going to run the quarter at the World Championships, but I think she's going to break it outdoors. And that would be one of the things on her list to check off. But indoors just seems a little risky to run that many quarters unless she's going
Yeah.
to be in a race where she knows she's way out in front. Just some stuff can go wrong there. So I'll go over. What about you?
I think I'll go over. I think the fact that she opened her season with a mile and not a 1K or 600, I think is showing that she's kind of leaning more towards the the longer distance this indoor season as opposed to the shorter distance that she focused on, you
Mm-hmm.
know, outdoor season of last year. But we'll see. I mean, she was supposed to run the 1K at this meet. Like she was slated to run a 1K, but she was the only
Yeah,
one in it. And I guess last minute, she's like, all right, we're not doing the 1K anymore. We're going to be
that's pretty
doing a
wild.
mile.
Do you think everybody scratched out of the 1K to avoid her? And then she's like, all right, I'll just go to the mile then. You can't hide from
Maybe.
me. I went to this school.
Yeah. You got to think like what's kind of like, she's going to do world indoors, right? I guess it's not sure if that's happening. Does that suck
Wait,
that we like,
the
will
meet's
you
not
or won't
happening?
you do a world? No,
Or
like
the
if she's
oh, her
actually going to
running
do
it.
it,
Okay. I
her
said,
running it.
are
I,
you breaking some news, Gordon, about world
no,
indoors?
no, no, I'm not breaking.
Yeah, it does suck. It sucks. And I don't like that part of the sport. I think she might do it though.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
We should do a pod, maybe Wednesday's pod, where we just name athletes and we interpret what sort of vibes they're giving off about whether or not they'd run world indoors.
Love it.
Because Coleman, I think yes,
Yeah,
because he's been gone for so long. Give me another gold medal, especially in the 60, an event he's owned. He owns the 60. Like he's given off, I'm going to do world indoors vibes for sure. But some other athletes out there, they give off, hey, I'm going to show up once at the Armory or in Staten Island. But, hey, guys, see you outdoors.
like Sydney, she's not doing it,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, every quarter miler or obviously 400-meter hurdler because they don't really have it indoors or at the World Championships gives off those vibes. But even I guess that where it'd be interesting with the it would be like with the 800. Like I'm curious on Brazier because so all of Union
Yes.
Athletics went to this meet
Yeah.
and they were posting a lot. And there were I think Brazier even posted on Instagram a clip of him just ripping around the track. And I thought I heard on one of the clips Pete Julian say like 23 or 22 or something like that for a 200 split. So I think he's chomping at the bit to run. But they're also probably like, hey, let's not overdo it. But he has the bye, so he doesn't need to get ready for U.S. trials. So does he ramp up, run the 800 at World Indoors, then has some time to chill and build back up for outdoors? He's one I'm interested in.
Do you think it's interesting that Union Athletics, a team that's based in Oregon, decided to
Mhm.
come to Texas A&M
So
for
there's the Brazier
a meet in
connection.
January? Yeah,
There's a Brazier connection. Raven Rogers didn't run, but she's from Houston. I'm not sure. I mean, he wasn't coaching anybody at the Houston half or marathon, was he? Did Osako run? I
I
don't think
didn't
so.
see. No, I didn't see
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting. I mean, they got that new indoor facility in Spokane, and obviously there's Seattle, but to get they wanted to get the standards for the 3K. So like Jessica Hull, Klosterhalfen wanted to get those women's 3,000-meter world indoor standards, and that was probably the best place to do it. And they didn't want to wait any longer, I guess.
And they want to go to Boston. Yeah, weather.
Shorter
It's easy,
shorter
simpler
trip than
to be
Boston.
Texan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that makes
they have
sense.
enough they have enough on the women's side, they have enough women to where they can control the race and create their own fast pace. They had Sinclair Johnson pacing. So it didn't really matter where they went. They just needed to go to a place where the meet was going to be run without a hitch and they'd be able to get their qualifying marks. On the men's side, and they got some good races in too. So you look at the men, that Engels Brandon Miller race was pretty fun in that men's 8. Miller edged him, but I think it's almost a good sign for Engels. I mean, this guy's one of the best in Miller, one of the best 800-meter runners in the nation. And the college kids get into shape a little sooner. Engels had talked about retiring last year and was down at Ole Miss. So I think it was a good sign for Engels, just that he's still in the mix, still sharp.
Yeah, I mean Miller is the real deal. I mean Miller is basically he's gonna be finishing top 5 at USA's, I
Mhm.
think. So he's gonna probably run a 143 this year later on. So yeah, if Craig Engels can go toe to toe with him, it's a good sign for his 1500-meter uh, chances down the line.
You hand out 800-meter PBs like candy. It is amazing. Everybody should have as much confidence in you 800-meter runners as Gordon Mack does. Like, a man of career, maybe 139. Who's to say?
Hey, I was technically right on the Emmanuel career prediction. I just was off by a few seconds and off by a few years on when he would win. But he did end up winning the Olympic title. I just predicted it in like 2017. But whatever.
Brandon Miller, Brandon Miller, 143. You heard it here from Gordon first. We've gone a long time, Gordon, without mentioning, I think the biggest indoor result from the entire weekend, and that's Terrence Jones of Texas Tech equaling the collegiate record in 6:45. This is huge for him. I mean, that's a mark that is shared by Christian Coleman and Leonard Miles Mills of BYU. 6:45. I didn't see this coming, and I'm looking at your rankings, and you don't even have him as the first Texas Tech guy. He's not even on the top 8 rankings. So I'm guessing this surprised you. I looked at his results, his history, and no wonder you didn't have him ranked. Was there any indication this was coming?
No indication at all. I mean, you look at his top time coming into this year, it's from 2021. He ran a 10:39 and a 20:36 200. Now that 20:36 200 is pretty good, but like there's a lot of people who can run 20:36 and 10:39 when you get even a shorter distance. 10:39 is like a good high school time,
Yeah.
which makes sense because he's only 19. That is a he did it when he was 18, so good high school time. But you would think in his first race out, if he's going to be at this talent, he runs like 661 or 662.
Yeah.
And even on a crazy day, 659. But to go all the way down into the 640s in race 1, where your previous 100-meter PB is 10:39, that is a hell of a drop in 1 year. Like June 25th, 2020 run, 2021, he runs 10:39. And then like a half a year later, he's running
Mhm.
6:45. That's like insane. It's insane.
So also in that race, Jacoby Shelton of Texas Tech, 6:59. Mike Rogers was in there, ran 6:65. I guess this makes you got to say Jones is the favorite now, right? You had Michael Williams, the reigning champion, number 1, then Recoy Braithwaite of Indiana, number 2.
Yeah, I mean Michael Williams still ran well. You can't forget about that. He ran at Spokane, and he ran 6:48. So I don't
Okay, so
think Terrence
he
Jones'
might.
mark is enough to be number one. I think Michael Williams is still number one because he has the pedigree. He's been around. He has the championship experience, and
Okay,
6:48 is legit. Terrence Jones' mark does technically round up by 2/100ths of a second because it's at
right.
altitude. So technically, his mark gets converted to 6:47. But yeah, Jones definitely is now saying, "Hey, I'm going to finish top three." He
Yeah.
went from "I have no idea who you are" to "I'm going to finish top three at worst."
Mhm. Big, big name to keep an eye on. I mean, both guys are listed as freshmen, Michael Williams and Terrence Jones. Yeah, I mean, it looks like that mark could get broken this year.
Yeah,
Not
I
saying
mean,
much because he equaled it already, and it's the middle of January, but we could see that thing go down. I was just like, what? That was stunning to me, and then I had to go back and look. Hey, has this guy been popping performances that I'm not like seeing? And then as you gave his CV for us there, it's like, nope, this was just crazy run for him. So fun times
I
heading to
mean,
indoor 16.
yeah, and when you throw in Joseph Fambula and also Sean Masangangwi, like there's going to be other guys who are also going to be in this mix. They're going
Hmm.
to push Williams and Jones as well. Like it's not just a foregone conclusion. This is a Williams versus Jones final
Hmm.
because there are a few other guys out there. But when your first race in college is, or was it his first race in college? I know. I guess he's a
He
redshirt
ran
freshman.
outdoors.
He ran
He
outdoor.
ran outdoor.
But when your
Yeah,
first indoor race is six
indoor
forty
race.
five, it's insane.
Yeah, yeah. What else on the collegiate side caught your eye?
Uh, Florida had some good performances. They had a guy who I wasn't really keeping track of, Dedrick Vanover, ran 660, pretty good. He's kind of a for Florida have another guy in the 60 after losing what's his name? I forgot his name. Oh crap. What was his name? He woke
Raymond Ekfawo.
yeah, Raymond Ekfero. So they
Hmm.
have that. And then also Ja'Cory Patterson, who is a transfer from Virginia Tech. He ran 31.99, breaking 32 seconds. It's just like a cool result to have, 31.99. That's just like a cool number to look at, right?
In
Like
a 300.
in a 300, 31.99 is like, damn, that's 31.99 is like is a cooler result than like 31.95
Mhm.
because it's just like just under 32 seconds. I don't know. There's something about
Ja'Cory
the way the
Patterson
number
is basic.
looks.
He's the Ryan Krauser of the indoor 300.
Oh yeah,
Just all over the
he's been
record book.
doing this. He been running fast 300s at Virginia Tech every year,
Yeah.
uh, and now he's 31.99. That's close to the fastest in the world. I think Noah Lyles has the record, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he does. I think he ran like 31.8 or something like that. But yeah, Patterson, he's going to be a 400-meter monster. There's some fast milers out in UW, led by Kieran Lum, runs 355. A few other guys were running low three. There's like, man, the mile, it's going to be insane. I mean, it is January
We doing this
17th,
again?
and we already have 8 guys who have broken 4.
Oh man, you're still talking about breaking four.
I know, but like, I know. Well, the whole point of that is talking about how breaking 4 doesn't mean much anymore because we already
Yeah,
have
we
8.
buried that.
Like, yeah, we buried
Didn't
it.
we say
Okay, but I think it's
355 is the new four?
yeah,
355 is
350. Yeah,
talk about
sub
how many guys are under
356.
350. Okay, good. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
So we have 2: Kieran Lum of Washington and Colton Johnson of Washington State. Both ran 355. We do have the great converter, the best conversion of the day. We have Duncan Hamilton of Montana State. He ran a 405 mile, but
Mhm.
because it was on a weird track and at altitude, it got converted to 356. So you got you went to a 405, but then T first looks at it as a 356. I love crazy conversions when you
Can you do a conversion of the week for your NCAA show? I think that would be a
oh
fun,
yeah,
like, ongoing segment. Maybe get
Conversion
a
of the
little
week.
music to play it, like Gordon's conversion of the week. This guy ran 5:05 in the mile and it converted down. But he did it at altitude on an uphill 200-meter flat track, and he's qualified to NCAAs.
The best is 5K conversions. There's this kid, Ben Perrin from Montana State. He ran a 14:14 5K, which
Yeah,
converted to 13:43. Like almost 30
yeah,
seconds. Taken off. Imagine being able to just chop 30 seconds off your 5K mark because of where you ran it. Now I get it. Altitude, it's hard to run in altitude, and I get it. Flat tracks, it's harder to run on the curves. I'm
yeah,
not saying the conversion isn't necessary, but it is kind of funny to see a guy run 14:14 and then
yeah.
his time is 13:43. This is kind of
How about Matt Bowling? He had himself a little bit of a weekend, huh?
yeah. I ranked him high up in the long jump for a reason. He starts off his season with a incredible long jump, jumping over 8 meters. What was its mark exactly?
8:25.
8:25, 27 feet 1 inch. Bowling's going to be a legitimate score for them in the long jump. He ran a fast 200 as well, so he's going to be looked upon to score, 16 to 20 points individually. With 2 third place finishes or 2 first place finishes.
Looking at the indoor all-time to get into that top 10. Let's see, what is the mark? 8:27 gets you to the top 10 all-time. Collegiate record 8:59. That's some serious jumping. Carl Lewis went 8:49. This is indoors, of course.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
Bowling did it on he did it on his second attempt, and then he passed the next 4. So you have
yeah,
to think if he is given an extra jump here or there, he could increase at 8:25.
yeah. That was 14th all-time on the NCAA indoor list, and I thought the 200 was solid, 20.49 in that same meet. Randolph Ross won the quarter, looked pretty good there too. But I think bowling is he's going to be a factor in a number of events,
Yeah,
which is
100%.
not saying it, much. It's one of those things where, like, pick an event and focus on it, pick an event and focus on it. But maybe it's just he can do all of them at the same time. Now he may not win the NCAA title in one of them, although it's looking pretty good in the long jump right now. But I think he's able to juggle all these events pretty well without one taking away from the other. Now maybe that'll change as he gets later on into his career, but right now he seems like he can do it.
Yeah, and jumping has been good on the women's side too. We had a collegiate record in the triple jump.
Mhm.
Ruth Usoro of Texas Tech. She jumped 48 feet in the triple, which is 14.76 meters. Every time I hear like someone broke a triple jump record, I also kind of be like, damn, that must be good because I know that Couture Orgy was like dominating it. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, this is
yeah,
going better than Orgy. This is like, that means it's legit.
yeah.
So Ruth Osoro, so Texas Tech has the two fastest, not two fastest, the two longest triple jumpers right now in the nation, both set this past weekend.
Yeah. I thought the same thing just because I was around for when Orchie was smashing a collegiate record all the time and just pushing that event forward. And then someone comes along and breaks it. It makes you realize, okay, wow, this person's legit. Because think about all the NCAA titles she won as well. So yeah, big jumps for her across the board. Um, she's one to watch for. Let's get some. I'm looking at the chat here for some questions. Anthony says, "Is bowling ever going to concentrate on an event or two, or is he going to go the Carl Lewis route? What do you think, Gordon?"
I think he's going to focus on whatever gets him the most success. You know, I think in college, he's going to do like the Grant Holloway route where he's going to be looked upon to score as many points for the team, right? Like Grant
Yeah,
Holloway
yeah,
was a long jumper and 4x4 splitter and 4x1 leg. And now he's just a hurdler, right? As a pro.
hmm
I think that might be the same thing with bowling. He's going to be doing everything he can to get as many points for Georgia. But then once he goes pro, he's going to figure out which event is he best at and just do that. So, and right
hmm
now, you could argue his best event is a long jump, and not the 100 and not the 200. I mean, things
Yeah.
might change as this year progresses and he shows that he can get some good speed, but I could see him just being like, hey, I can jump. He beat Stephen McCarter. Didn't Stephen McCarter make the Olympics?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
just beat an Olympian in the long jump. He's not beating any Olympians. I think it's a lot easier to make the long jump Olympic team or world team than it is to make the 100-meter team or the 200-meter team, right?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine a
Well,
world where Matthew Bowling is finishing third in the 200 or in the 100 this year at
this year, no,
Worlds? I mean,
no,
at the USA's?
no, no. I mean, finals, yes. The 100 is just so loaded, and I think by default the
Exactly.
200
Yeah.
is going to be. I mean, the 200 is stacked too. It's okay. You're going to beat Lyles, Bednarik. Well, Lyles has the bye, so you got to get ahead of Bednarik, Curley, Arian Knighton,
Knighton.
Terrence Laird is going to be in the
Yeah.
mix. I think too. I think Michael Norman might give it a shot. Not reporting that. Have no inside info on that. Just a feeling that I've been going with.
All right.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking Fred Curley and Shrika Jackson opened up Pandora's box when it comes to the sprinters, and now they're dreaming about what's possible. What would you say was bowling's most memorable race in high school?
I mean, I think it's his 4x4 anchor.
I agree. And okay,
Yeah.
we got to talk about 4x4 anchors for a second here. Just overall 4x4 anchors, especially high school 4x4 anchors. Sometimes they look way cooler than they are because if you're running against
People.
inferior competition and your first three legs aren't that great and you're behind and you chase somebody down, it's spectacular looking, but then you actually got to look at the numbers. But in his case, the numbers were amazing. That was a sensational split. And I thought, hey, quarter for him maybe in college. But you look at, he hasn't really run it that much. I think that might be something in the future that he does a bit more as well too, is the quarter. Now, long jump 400 double would be unique to say the least, but maybe that's where his skill set lies. It's hard to think about that, but he certainly can run a good quarter.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's like, hey, just make the 400 final, and then you're on the 4x4 pool, and then go
Yeah.
make the team in the long jump, and then you have the opportunity to just get a lot of medals.
Guess how many times he ran the 4x4 last year outdoors for Georgia? Outdoors.
I don't know. Uh,
Once.
really?
Just once. Indoors, he ran it
When
at
the hell is that?
SECs. He ran it at SECs indoors. He ran it at indoor nationals. He ran it at Tiger Paw. He ran it 4 times indoors and only did it once outdoors.
How's that possible? Who ran the 4x4 SECs for them?
Not
I'm
bowling.
looking it up. Oh,
He
they
just
ran
ran the
like a
4 by
B
one.
team. Yeah,
It's just
I think the situation was they were only going to run a good 4x4 if they had 4 good legs, and I think it wasn't worth risking his individual events for
yeah,
a
I
four
get
by
it. I'm not
one
saying
for
it's
the sake of
yeah.
the four by
I'm
four.
not saying it's a bad. I'm not passing judgment on it at all. I'm just saying the opportunities haven't been there for him in the quarter. Now maybe they've seen enough in practice to know, hey, these are the best opportunities for him because his coach and he knows better than everybody else. But it's just interesting we haven't seen more opportunities. Now he ran a bunch from indoors, but not quite the same thing as doing it outdoors. Anthony asks bowling. Oh, wouldn't bowling have to beat Harrison for the long jump title? No, Javon Harrison went pro, so he does not have to beat Javon Harrison. Um, we got a question here from Bill. Is Gordon's hotel heat broken? What's up with the puffer jacket indoors?
It is cold, and as I mentioned on the podcast a few weeks ago, I'm not good with thermostats, especially hotel thermostats. Those things are like
Confusing to you?
they're like what do you call those things? Where you lock yourself in a room, like escape rooms. It's like an escape room type puzzle. The thermostat here, so I was like, I'm just putting a jacket on. It feels nice. It
I'm
feels
just
nice. I
pumped your
feel
internet
cozy.
works. Usually, when you're
Yes.
on the road, you find the location in the United States with the worst internet, and then you're like, "Hey guys, can you hear me? Doing an check." And like, Gordon, where are you? You're like, "I'm in a McDonald's parking lot in Corpus Christi. I don't know why the internet's not working. It's weird."
Man, I miss those days when I could just go to the beach because it's pandemic time and no one cares. He's like, "Oh yeah, where's Gordon? Oh, he's at the beach. Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Just when working from home was like, you could just
You
do
can
whatever
still
you
do
want.
that.
I know you
You're in
still
Houston
do
right
it, but
now. You still do that. Come
I
on. What do you
am,
mean?
yeah. I don't know. There
Would
was
anybody
something
know?
about 2020 summer where like working remotely was very, very casual, extremely casual. Everyone was casual about it. Now people are expecting more like, no, you gotta do your stuff.
You
You
can't
gotta
just
make sure
go
you're on with
walk
it.
into the office with a puffer jacket on, basically is what you're saying.
Exactly. Exactly.
Gotta have some respect. Okay. Well, I think we ran through it. Was there anything else indoor wise? It's tough because with the collegiates, you always feel like you're leaving somebody out. You're like, oh yeah, collegiate, right. But I think between bowling, Usoro, Jones, Patterson, you talked about the distance races as well. I think we covered
There were
it.
some like
Brandon Miller.
low key like fasts like off events that happened, like in a 600 in Clemson. Someone ran 115. Cameron Jones
Mhm.
ran 115 in a 600. It's pretty good. Um, there was a good 500. Leander Forbes ran 101. Again, these these marks sometimes it's kind of hard to understand what's good and what's not. Kind of hard to figure it out. But I am looking forward to this upcoming weekend because now that they're off and running, this upcoming weekend we're gonna have 2 events live on Flow. There's some other fast races going on at Texas Tech, at College Station, Penn State's
Mhm.
having a meet. Um, but yeah, this weekend we're going to be live in Albuquerque for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Collegiate Invitational. Today's Martin Luther King Day. Shout out Martin Luther King. And then also the BU Battle in Beantown in Boston. So maybe see some fast milers and stuff like that. But we're getting into the heat of it. I mean, we're
Yeah.
only 2 weekends away from Milrose, right? So
Yes.
like from
It
now
it
on
goes
until eternity, it's going to be boom, 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 fast, fast, fast.
it goes very quickly from, "Hey, did anybody run this weekend?" to so many people ran well that you need to pick and choose. Hey, there's only time or space to talk about 4 or 5, these 4 or 5, basically. And that's how I was feeling with once the NCAA stuff started going, and you have someone tied the collegiate record in the 60, and then you got what bowling did, and then you got what Patterson did. You're just like, all right, this is real. It's really happening again. We got full indoors at full go already, and it's the second week in January.
Yep. So should be good. Again, 2 live events this weekend.
Yeah.
One in Boston, one in Albuquerque. And then we're also getting ready soon for the World Indoor Tour. So we have a bunch of
Yes.
World Indoor Tour events coming up. The first one, there was supposed to be one that was going to be this weekend in Paris, but that got delayed because of COVID. So the first one on Flow is going to be in Germany, Karlsruhe,
Karlsruhe.
Karlsruhe,
Mhm.
Germany,
Okay.
January 28th, live on Flow. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway,
the international fields will get going, and the United States, obviously, the collegiate meets provide plenty of opportunities for the pros and the collegians to run fast. So exciting times indeed. We'll be back Wednesday. Email the pod, FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. Leave a comment, subscribe to the FloTrack Podcast YouTube channel, and follow the FloTrack Podcast on Instagram. We're putting up some reels. There's some reels there. The young people like the reels, Gordon. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm old. You're too old, but the young people like the reels. So check them out.
It's like
Thanks to
TikTok.
Colt. It's like TikTok, Colt says. There you go. Actually, we're on TikTok too, by the way. That's actually
we're
a
on
real thing that I
TikTok.
found out.
Whew.
Yeah, I found that out last
I'm a
week. We are on.
TikToker.
Listen,
TikTok
this
this
was
year.
a big weekend for me because D'Amato and Sarah Hall right around my age. So I felt really seen this weekend in terms of what you can accomplish. But then I go on TikTok and I realize I don't understand anything. So follow us there. It'll make me feel better. Thanks to Colt. Thanks to Travis. See you Wednesday.